President Biden says following the latest round of talks is sending his Secretary of State to Israel to continue with intensive efforts to conclude the agreement. We have an update.
Concerned that Iran may launch an attack against Israel over the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. The President of the United States, Joe Biden, says nobody in the region should take any step to undermine the current peace process. In a recent joint statement, the U.S., Qatar, and Egypt stated they had presented a proposal for a ceasefire and hostage release deal that narrows the gaps between Israel and Hamas. Hamas has expressed skepticism about the chances of a real deal. A senior Hamas official says the outcome of the latest Gaza ceasefire talks in Qatar's capital, Doha, does not include commitments to what was previously agreed on the 2nd of July, based on the U.S. President Joe Biden's proposal, and without mentioning the possibility of a ceasefire. Israel says it appreciates the efforts of the U.S. and the mediators to dissuade Hamas from its refusal to a hostage release deal. An agreement in November 2023 saw Hamas release 105 of the hostages in return for a week-long ceasefire and the freeing of at least 240 Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails. Israel says 111 hostages are still being held, 39 of whom are presumed dead. Relatives of the hostages still in Gaza are calling the current negotiations the last chance to get some of them out alive. On the flip side, Lebanon's Ministry of Health says an Israeli airstrike in the southern axis of the country has killed at least 10 people as the Israeli military reports hitting a Hezbollah weapons storage facility. The death toll from the strike in the Nabatea area includes a woman and her 2 children, with 5 others wounded, 2 of them critically.
Amid the war in Gaza, at least 1 case of polio has been confirmed, the first in 25 years. Others are suspected cases. The virus was detected in wastewater in 6 different locations in July. To avert a widespread outbreak, 8 groups are preparing to vaccinate more than 600,000 children in the coming weeks. But they say without a pause in Israel's war on Gaza, the ambitious vaccination plans could be hindered. Hamas has signified support for the request announced by the United Nations for a 7-day truce to pave way for the vaccination of thousands of children. Hamas Political Bureau says the group is also demanding for the delivery of medicine and food to more than 2 million Palestinians trapped in Gaza. Speaking to reporters at the United Nations, the Secretary General Antonio Guterres appealed for assurances to be given immediately to prevent the spread of polio in Gaza. And still talking lingering wars. Ukraine has reportedly destroyed a strategically important bridge over the river Sem as it continues its incursion into Russia's Kursk region. The bridge was used by the Russian government to make supplies to its troops. We have an update.
Russia's foreign ministry has accused Ukraine of using US-made HIMARS to destroy a bridge in the Kursk region, killing volunteers trying to evacuate civilians. The spokeswoman for the Russian Foreign Ministry, Maria Zakharova, says for the first time, the Kursk region was hit by Western-made rocket launchers, probably American HIMARS. Meanwhile, Ukraine's military says the country's air defenses shot down 14 Russian drones overnight. It says as a result of the attack on the bridge over the Siem River in the Grishkovo district, the bridge was completely destroyed and volunteers who were assisting the evacuated civilian population were killed. Ukraine's air defenses say they shot down all 14 Russian drones fired in an overnight attack over 6 Ukrainian regions in the south and center of the country. Meanwhile, in Kursk, Russia's border with Ukraine, bodies are reportedly decomposing on the street. Bullet-marked civilian cars line the road with streets littered with shrapnel. Locals are fleeing to a bomb shelter. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky says the war of choice, begun by Russia against Ukraine 2 years ago, has returned home to Russia.
And from wars to politics in the United States, where Republican and Democratic parties, presidential candidates, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are warming up for. It will be the first time the big political wigs will be encountering each other at close range. The planning of the debate of high international interest has already begun. Kamala Harris held her first formal debate training session earlier this week at Howard University, which is the historical black college in Washington, D.C. She attended nearly 4 decades ago. She's working closely with a seasoned Trump stand-in. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has enlisted one of the vice president's ex-rivals to help his preparation. Tulsi Gabbard is a former representative from Hawaii, who ran for president as a Democrat in 2020, in a crowded field that also included Vice President Kamala Harris.
As president, I will work in partnership with industry to build the housing we need, both to rent and to buy. We will take down barriers and cut red tape, including at the state and local levels.
She's running on the Maduro plan. We call it the Maduro plan, like something straight out of Venezuela or the Soviet Union. This announcement is an admission that her economic policies have totally failed and caused really a catastrophe for our country, and beyond that, a catastrophe in the world.
The U.S. is reportedly facing a significant wave in the spread of COVID-19 wave, with viral activity levels in wastewater reportedly the highest they've been for a summer surge since July 2022. That's according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's wastewater dashboard. According to the board, emergency room visits, hospitalizations and deaths are also ticking up, although not to the same extent as infectious. And doctors in India are on a national strike to buttress their condemnation of the rape and murder of a female colleague in the West Bengal city of Kolkata. The Indian Medical Association, which is the country's largest group of doctors, says all non-essential hospital services will be shut down across the country today. The association described last week's killing as a crime of barbaric scale due to the lack of safe spaces for women, demanding for the people's support in its struggle for justice. Protests against the attack and the call for the better protection of women have intensified in recent days after a mob vandalized the hospital where it happened. In a statement, the Indian Medical Association says emergency and casualty services would continue to run and the strike would last for 24 hours. You're watching TVC News. We'll take a short break. We'll return with more stories. Please stay with us.